reverting it because everybody asked for that. And that's the other exhausting thing, too. Disabled it for the time being. Yeah, it was a bug in the MMR seeding is what they said. But I guess to, you know, to reassure people that it's going to be okay, maybe they turned that off because people were pointing at it. I personally, on a personal level, I have a problem with the internet. It's something I'm working on. When I read in an anonymous forum kind of setting, I do this a little bit on Twitter, but I'm better about it because there's a little picture and then the name. But if I see someone that's like, shut up and take my money, and they're like, brr, and, you know, they're posting gifs of Fry being like, shut up and take my money. I'm always like, okay, I'll be there. I'll be there when that thing comes out. And then the thing comes out that they said, shut up and take my money about. And they're like, I'm not paying X money for X. And I'm like, but I know that's not the same guy. The same guy who says he needed performance-based matchmaking is probably not the guy who's saying everything is broken, turn it off and reset everybody at the same time. But my brain takes these two anonymous posters and makes them the same person. And I go, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. Friday, they turned it off. Okay. So that was a part of the blog then. Maybe I didn't. I actually saw this thing during Team League, so I know I didn't read it in full then. Mentioned earlier in this forum post regarding matchmake ratings and the follow-up here. Oh my god. We've been working hard on fixing to address the issue affecting placement, matchmaking ratings. After further investigation, we identified the root cause and have deployed a fix. We apologize to everyone who has been impacted by the rough start of the new ranked season. Everybody did this to themselves. This is all like, oh my god. Oh, the Reddit thread complaining the most about MMR placements had a guy. This guy, he says, I'm solo tank variant. My Jaina sucks, so I naturally take Colossal Smash. And I'm just like, what? How did you get these two ideas, and how did you form them together that the Jaina sucked and you were solo tank variant? And this was, I feel like people took 3 months off of Hero League. They took 3 months off of Hero League. And then they come back, and then people even posting in there, they're like, I was placing on my Smurf and X happened. I'm like, it was your Smurf. You're the ones breaking it. You're all responsible. It's all your faults. They did nothing. Anyway, once Hot Fox is live in your region, we will be re-enabling matchmaking for Hero League and Team League. And although the issue we encountered was unrelated to performance-based matchmaking improvements, we are reinstating ranked mode with the performance-based matchmaking systems updates turned off. We want to make sure that we've resolved all the issues and that the ranked season placements are in a good place before we reinstate any new features. We understand many of you are very excited about performance-based matchmaking changes, and we'll update everyone once they're ready to be turned on again. Okay. So. Okay. Alright. So we're gonna get them again at a time. There was some real bummers though here. Like, so this is me as a coach. This is me doing my analytical best when I'm preparing for something like Into the Nexus. I'm eating up all these different statements. I'm trying to figure out what's true, what's not, figure it out. So this is interesting. So now we are without performance-based matchmaking. There was some real bummers in here, though. There was a serious bummer having to do with short games. I think short games were the most bummerific because people would crush it and then see minus 20, 50, depending. But if you crush it, then you get less points. So I think there was some confusion in the system itself as to what it was telling us, the player. I think it was really, really sad to call matchmaking adjustments performance-based adjustments. Our old system, it'd be like, and minus 5 points for reasons that you were higher MMR than enemy team, and so we expected you to win anyway, minus 5. And that was the system being like, you played well. You did everything you could, but we need to compensate a little bit for what we did. That was always a bummer because you're like, oh, why even tell me? Why did I even have to know? But it looks like they put that system and put it on top of performance. And so when you get in the game and you crush it in 15 minutes, and then it would be like -20 because you're too good, you'd go, no, those two ideas don't mix. That's not right. And that's fair. Like that is 100% a disappointment. And I'll agree to that. Right, and Loadvar's got it right too. You know, this is what everyone wanted. Boy, it's Gotta turn back on the music. It feels so serious and quiet. Need a little future tech music in our heroes. The hard MMR reset, like that's its own thing too. I think one of the biggest problems, and I have no idea how you fix it. How do you fix it so that people who are invested in a game get to play with other people who are invested, and those who are casual are playing alongside other casuals, but your casual may be different than someone else's casual. Someone else's casual might be really, really good. Like, Battle Right. It was my first game, but because Jade was like Vala, I just went, oh, this is Vala. And I did really well in my early games of Battle Right because of previous experience from MOBAs. But I don't know counters. I don't know timings. I don't know what enemy abilities look like. Plus in Battle Right, they're not quite as clear as Heroes of the Storm, just because it's a lot tighter. It's a lot shorter of a game. And everybody had like 8 abilities rather than the 4 and a couple piano keys you might be interested in. But, you know, I did really well there. How do you gauge that before someone even gets in the game? In StarCraft, they'd have you go up against every single league. You'd do 5 placements and you'd fight bronze, silver, gold, you know, platinum and diamond players along that way, and you'd sort of test your grounds. And if you wanted to, you know, go up against a diamond player and be like, I'm not diamond, and exit that game immediately, you could. So it's not pretty. How do you fix that? There's some serious human engineering, emotional engineering as well, that I think needs to go into this, because our system is binary. It was binary. Now we tried to make it non-binary and influenced by the player's performance. But I think what we really need is emotion-based matchmaking. And I don't know how you do that without testing chemicals in the brain or getting real weird, or finding metrics that don't matter. Either way, there were some real bummers in the previous one, and it didn't inform us why we lost those points anyway. And tests showed in general that farming stats was way better than winning in a lot of ways. So a great example I saw was ETC. ETC farms stuns, gets in bad position so he can face melt as many people as possible. That player anecdotally received more performance-based matchmaking than a player who anchored and zoned and spent their time giving sight to the team but never really interacting. So Zeratul, or Sight in general, Sight is a great example of this. Sight, you put out a scouting drone, Zeratul scouts an area, Tassadar turns on his Oracle. These are great moments for the team to avoid a fight, to not take damage. You are sort of pre-tanking the damage by nobody picking that bad gank in the first place. But how does personal MMR account for something like that? What did I do numerically that was good? Sure, we capped an extra camp, but how does that account for my Wisp going in there and finding that? Do I give bonus points because it was revealed by the Wisp? Probably not. So where... And then people are all saying like, Overwatch got rid of it, we should be Overwatch, and that's not exactly true either. Overwatch, you can change characters, so it's a little messy as well. Yeah, exactly. So the seeding was the problem, and shouldn't have really mattered for quick match and stuff like that. I know a lot of people were looking forward to this. And Alebeard's got it right too. More relevant information, so we know what's going on. Or yeah, just simply let us play the game and don't give us that feedback if it's not actually actionable feedback. If we can't do anything about the way you placed us, you know, let's not fart around forever. And by the way, during that monologue, thank you to Disciple Jeff. Wait, Jeff, Disciple, is this your Kerrigan we're gonna be watching today? Thanks for sending it over, man. Hope we can find some good tips for you. And Repip, good to see you, man. Welcome back. Thank you for the biddies. Match time should be a factor, exactly. And if the match is shorter, shouldn't that just be a result of the match, not a rank adjustment thing? If I get out of a match in 5 minutes rather than 20 because we kick so much butt, I don't think that's a problem, and I shouldn't lose points based on, but maybe we should, right? But how do you, it's a serious emotional issue. And I think a lot of people too, particularly the ones who placed 3 times, there's something going on there. There's some holiday burnout for sure, particularly on the Reddit. You see a lot of burnout. And I just want to go on Steam and be like, play this. Go play this. Just get off Heroes for a little bit. It's cool, guys. If you're burnt out on a game, you don't have to stick around here for the treat button. It'll be good. Heroes are going to be fine. We're going to get through this. We'll get to the next season. We'll update the matchmaker. They will keep working on this game. It will improve. But, you know, if you're going to spend your whole holiday hitting that button for a reward, and you need masters to verify your participation in this community, that's a bummer. You gotta check yourself, you know? Yeah, and Caldor's got a lot of stake in the game because he has personally pioneered a lot of the talk about this being in, and I know he's invested because a lot of people blame him. Yeah, Dark Souls, great game. You learn to get good in Heroes, and you understand the concepts, and you're enjoying Dark Souls. I mean, Dark Souls is a little tiring, right? I mean, when I play, I mean, here, let's honestly talk about it.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the.
No, we're not doing that. Whatever Cortana thing that was. Creepy. There's so many good games right now. The real damage is done. True, in our minds, but everything passes with time, Rat Bear. I don't feel like my trust is broken. I also, you know, not very closely, but through my associations with the show, with the summit, by doing Blizzard shows for 6 years now, I know quite a few people on the dev team and the community team, and this hit them hard. You know, they were really sad. They knew a lot of people were looking forward to this. And they wanted people to have a good experience. And a lot of people did, you know, take those 3-month breaks from Hero League. Some of them to game the system, right? Some of them are on Smurfs now. And it feels like, looking from my perspective, that a lot of what we did was borked our own system. And they could have been prepared for us, and maybe we had to be more patient and let the dust settle. However, that does not get rid of the huge disappointments of climbing really hard and placing in something that you feel you don't belong in. That is hugely disappointing. The personal adjustments for having really short games or crushing the enemy team, like, there are some serious disappointments that system had waiting for people. Plus the resets. Those are huge disappointments, but they're trying to fix themselves. So it's very difficult to have this human conversation because they did everything they could. I wish they could have let the dust settle, but it's a video game, and acting fast is professional in an entertainment setting because you are taking somebody's night and complicating it a lot. They wait all day, they come home, and they want to play your video game, and it didn't work, and you broke it. It was working the night before, and you broke it. But they're home too, you know, they worked on it all day. And I know a lot of these community managers, and they work really hard and they read everything, you know, for their benefit or not. they see just about every comment that goes up about their game on the internet, particularly on Reddit and Twitter and stuff like that, and then it hurts. And some of them got personally attacked. You know, people went after them with their anger. And that ain't right. And my first reaction is to burn it a lot of the time. Like, people went out of their way to attack the people that we love. This game is built on love. They built it with us. It's a crowning achievement. It is a pillar of what a community can do to influence and make a custom game from Warcraft 3 into its own thing while experiencing these characters and growing and coming up with skins together that reach the dev ears, and for people to lash out so quickly after everything has been so good, I am just deeply saddened, you know? And this is me also, you know, I spend time here a bit talking, you know, trying to work out, you know, what's the official message, because that's what ITN is. It's the cap of my entire Heroes experience for the week, the cornerstone of this streaming structure. And right now I'm having a hard time getting over disappointment of people who attacked those of Blizzard. And that made me very, very sad. Now, I know some of these comments are from before my monologue there. And we can't just, you know, assume, and, you know, maybe there was laziness or whatever happened there. I mean, it's a lot like the support nerf thing. People said it was lazy, but it ended up being great, even though it wasn't as big. It was more of a social nerf, as weird as that was. Wish for Honor had acted faster. Yeah, that's an interesting comment, Batman. Because Honor also had serious lag issues on release. Or am I thinking of the second one? The one with the samurais versus the Vikings versus the... Maybe they didn't have Vikings. I've seen it in passing, but I've heard about it. And it's always sad when a game just simply doesn't have a strong enough player base to make the game good. Now, you hear a little bit about that with Battle.Right. That you've got this huge free-to-play market, but then on top of it is the people who are really camped out and invested, and the rest of us just kind of move in and out because it's more of a Steam game. Blizzard has a bit more of a dedicated client base because our launcher is very small. It's full of lesser games. Their games are also highly adaptable. I can turn down these settings to like Warcraft 3 levels and still enjoy the game. So it's got a very wide audience. Still an Apple, you know, even though Apple's not doing much support for gaming anyway. It has only been a week, yeah. So it looks like they turned it off on Saturday, or Friday, Hottie, and haven't turned it back on. So we were looking at this here blog from 2 days ago. Oh, thank you, Rat Bear. But I know, too, they're, you know, it's a big message. And one of the great things about, like, imagine if I had said this in a tweet, you know? If I had gotten on Twitter and kind of waffled around a little bit about how you shouldn't be mean to the dev team, but I understand why you're disappointed. That's not the medium for a conversation like this. And streaming, where we're one-on-one here, or one-on, you know, audience, having a talk, like, we can really have these what-if explorations. They also don't work that well in a podcast because it's a finite amount of time. It's like a TV show, right? It's really great to have a multi-series show that goes, you know, 8 episodes, let's say. And one of those episodes is about failure, and they completely fail whatever the thing is for the episode, and that's great in this big, long series. Like a show here, if I lose a game, but we sandwich it and wins and have a good time, that loss isn't so bad. But I cut out that loss, I put it on YouTube, and now that can be a place for negativity. So we're on the right forum here to have this back and forth. Making a PR statement from up top that launches out to everybody, it's almost guaranteed to feel stale. and put on. You know, I think one of the most real things they do is Jeff Kaplan getting on the forums and calling out people who are toxic in his game. Like that's a level of realness that is special. And finding that voice, that character maybe even, for your company, maybe amongst yourselves, is pretty cool. And we're seeing this too, like Lana, the animator, we're seeing like, and you see it across all games, there's a growth of celebrities from inside the business and people who have greater voices than the business itself. You particularly see this in cases like Star Citizen. And they have a lot of power and they can really sway an audience in a very personal way, but the company can't. And that makes it difficult. That's an interesting one, Beard League. And I don't know. That's a perception in Hearthstone too, that the devs don't care or don't listen. Paragon I really enjoyed during beta. I actually got rather into it. I played the Ring Wraith, whatever his name is, with the mace. He seemed to be okay at jungling. But he was the one I really got in. There was the guy who threw, the fishman who threw rocks. I got pretty good at him too. The main reason I left Paragon was because every hero update was another human with a gun or a sword, and the silhouettes weren't very different, and I wanted more monsters. Also, you know, I right-click things and then I attack them in heroes, whereas here I had to aim and, you know, I'm spinning in 360, and really, really cool game. I really liked, it was immersive, it was beautiful, beautiful game. Paragon in a modern kind of way, but you know, that modernness wears off. It looks over shiny. Things start to look weird when you don't do stylized graphics in the game because they don't age well. You know, like the Batman games. Things start to look a little plastic, but at the time you're like, whoa. Always the danger with doing something realistic. Probably one of the weirdest uncanny things too about like Mario or Sonic going into that like real world kind of place where you're like, how does the cartoon man fit in with the business people? It seemed, I don't know. I remember that happening in the Sonic Dreamcast game back in the day, and then they did it again recently with the recent Mario game. Poor Disciple here sitting here like, what about my Kerrigan? We'll get to you, man. But I feel like this is a good conversation to have. We were hard on D-Bro. We were really hard on Dustin Browder. But I think there was an important message that Dustin Browder had for us, and that was that this game will always be best 5v5 with a full group of friends. And that message got really lost when he left. No one said it anymore. And there doesn't need to be a matchmaker if you're a group of 5, because if you lose, well darn it, you suck. You and your friends suck. And that's why you lost. That's not exactly a comforting thought. You know? That's the nice thing about solo queue, is that I'm here. You guys are in my chat, so you're seeing my point of view. So often if I say, what's wrong with Falstad? What's Falstad doing? We're all in agreement because we've only seen my point of view. We're looking through my eyes. And oftentimes everyone agrees. And we're like, yeah, Falstad sucks. And we're like, whoa, shoot up the fireworks, everybody. It's not our fault. And that's really comforting to have. But at the same time, you know, I will always remember when I was at MLG, and we were hanging out with this group of players, and they're like, so what game do you guys play? What are you here for? And we're like, StarCraft. And they were League of Legends players, and they're like, oh, man. I could never play your game, because when I lose, it would be my fault entirely. At least with League of Legends, when I lose, I can blame 4 other dudes. And all his friends had to chuckle and looked at each other knowingly and, you know, went on with their day. But that really spoke to me, and I'll always remember that as a feature of what we're doing over here. That's interesting. When I was at the summit this last year, I went upstairs for my interview, and it was the pros interview time right before me. And they said that they were killing this game. They were animate. I'm not going to say names, but, you know, they were animate. They were angry. And they said multi-soaking is destroying the game. Killing the game. And boy, those are strong words. And we walked in there to some really shell-shocked devs. And, you know, maybe our interview period was a little more jokey, a little more upbeat because of the experience they had just had. But they were shocked. They were shaken by that experience. It's tough to judge what's lazy. By the way, 6 Degree, thank you for the resub. 6 months. Keeping ahead of the curve. But where do you draw that line? You know, what is lazy? What is bad dev ship? I don't know. You know, like if I'm sitting at home and I get it, I look at Twitter and I'm a dev and I'm at home, right? I'm in LA. I'm working in LA. I have to drive 2 hours to work in order to afford working at Blizzard. Like, that's kind of crazy. A lot of people would rather not have to do that drive, but they love their job. So I pull out my phone and I see Nazebo's bugged. Superstition is active at all times. If he dies while it's active, please turn him off. Can I do anything about it? Would I say to myself, well, you've got 2 bans. Why don't you ban him? What's the problem here? How do we spread that information? How does that reach everybody? How does everybody know to ban that? Who starts abusing that bug? As Blizzard gamers, do we abuse bugs more because their game is mostly fair, but we see an opportunity to get ahead real quick by doing something cheap and dirty? I think, judging from World of Warcraft players who have seeded into our game in a lot of ways, and watching them rogue jump from shaman to rogue to druid and just back and forth, and hearing the conversations that happen across a single expansion as to what the most powerful support is. Healer, because I play Holy Priest there. Went Disc Priest, made everybody really mad, then made them kind of happy, and then made them real mad again as balance changes rolled in and out. If you're chasing that meta in something like World of Warcraft, where you have invested 30 days to level up your character, whatever it is, you probably power level with heirlooms and stuff, but you know, it's a big investment. It's not a 30-minute game. It is your hero. It is your character. And that gets nerfed. Where do you go? And I feel the same way about something like Uther. You knocked 4% off me. A big deal. Uther's amazing, and I still have what I have, the investment, the time I put in. Sonic the Hedgehog was on Dreamcast, yeah. Zelatok, my big problem with Battle Right was that, kind of like Paragon, the character, there weren't really enough monster characters. I couldn't try them all either because I was doing the free-to-play thing. I really wanted to try Thorn. I tried him in try mode. Everybody had 8 abilities, so it was really hard to read. And in the end, that also meant people had very similar abilities, which is why I kind of stopped playing. When you have everybody has an ability, everybody has a space ability, that's a movement ability. A lot of people have a forward dash, a jump, a teleport, and they're just not as unique. It makes you really appreciate, well, Heroes only has 4 abilities for the most part rather than 8 per hero. You understand why it's limited, and you see a lot of uniqueness in playstyle in Heroes. And even then, people make choices. So yeah, the fun game. I liked it a lot. Also, I like longer matches, as funny as that is. You know, lots of people came to Heroes for shorter matches. I think Battle Right for the load-up time and the investment was maybe too long, or maybe there were too many rounds. It was a real balance for me. Yeah, and I'm not calling it, and people absolutely have a right to be upset about things changing is painful. Marble and the sculptor and all that sort of thing, right? I mean, that's a classic part of human life. It's hard to change. I'm looking at this next year, and you know, it's my career, it's growth. But in order to grow, I have to put more work into it, and that's an exhausting proposition because I'm already doing everything I do. You know, it's spooky. Change is painful for a lot of people. Right, and that's a whole nother conversation. Ciceronian? Ciceronian. Feel free to hit me with a phonetic. I'm not the best. I'm not the best reader in the world. But I will call you C. Maybe CC if we get chummy. That can be true. Like Garrett. Garrett on ITN with me is a very emotional man. I had to learn with him that it wasn't a rising tide. It wasn't something that he held on to. You know, for me, I can get... Like, one of the reasons I might be more in control than some is because I work a lot like meters. I'm naturally quite an introverted person. I'm, you know, pretty quiet. I really enjoy time by myself, playing strategy games. So when, you know, there's people in my day and I'm busy, it's just a meter that fills. And it just keeps filling up. And I've got these rhythmic, you know, I stick to a schedule. I do an amount of grinding that makes me happy when it comes to Hero League. It's all pretty prescribed and measured for what keeps me a sane and happy person. And I can feel when I hit this point and I go, you know, okay, time to sit down, time to back off. I might end the stream a little early because I'm preventing the overflow. And it's not due to embarrassment. I just don't want to feel bad. You know, I don't want to feel any of those rage, or they're just not fun emotions, you know? They're not fun. They don't leave you feeling good. And if like it would when I was younger, it would sneak up on me and this bottle would fill and I'd just pop and it'd fly everywhere and, you know, release the rage. And it was stupid. It was uncontrollable and it was definitely childish. It felt very childish at the end of it. You know, taking your cell phone, granted it was an old flip phone, but throwing it against the wall, that's a dumbass idea when you can't afford your own cell phone. That's a dumbass idea. But, you know, you would be overcome by these emotions. But for someone like Garrett, like this meter, it's more like a in one ear, out in the other. These they don't stack. He doesn't get a stack going. It just flies through, and it just the bottle is constantly overflowing, but so that it never explodes. Right? He has a release valve. Mine is more of a replace. It's a septic system. No, that has to do with poop. I guess it is like a septic system, maybe, right? Yeah. So mine, you fill it up slowly, and then you pump it out. A coffee filter, a car filter. That you use until the very end, then you throw it away. That might be better. I don't know. I don't have a good analogy yet. This is all experimentation. But the same thing happened with Kristen too when she was learning to play. Is she has a lot of frustrations while she plays. She can become very frustrated. But these things are flying through. They are not stacking. They are not permanent. There is no need for Garrett to go wind down after he's had a very frustrating game because all his frustration is felt along the way. That also means, though, that, you know, I lose a little bit out on life in some ways. Because when I'm happy, I stack my happiness, too. And, you know, I get happy and I feel these happinesses. But it's hard for me to enjoy it sometimes because it's very scheduled, it's rhythmic. And I need to move on to that next thing I have a schedule to keep. Whereas someone like Garrett or my wife here gets to feel all that emotion just flying straight through their body and feel it all in just this explosion and fireworks. And it's a joyous thing. So for someone, you know, I've talked to Garrett about this because for me, growing up, my dad would say, I hate this game. He didn't play video games. He wouldn't do new stuff. He'd rarely put himself out of his comfort zone. He loved bowling. But when he would lose at bowling, which was basically not rolling perfect strikes the whole time, he'd say, I hate this game. And as a kid, you're sitting there like, why would you play a game you hate? Are you insane? Why would you do this to yourself? And so when they say these things like, for instance, Valir is broken, I'm done with Hero League until Valir is gone, it depends on the type of person. Is that a commitment? Is that a stack in your filing cabinet like mine where I go, all right, I have declared that I will not be, you know, playing this game until Valir. Here is my statements in a box. I'm a talk with my wallet kind of guy. You upset me, you upset, you know, you break our friendship. I'm the kind of guy that will say, we're not friends anymore. I'm a busy man. I like people in their little box. I tell people when we become friends. Like, that's how lame I am in some ways. Is I'll be like, dude, like, You have just entered my nemesis system of friendship. Congratulations. You have been ranked up. You know, I want you to know that I count you as a friend now. We're an even exchange of feelings. If you need to come to me with something and get something off your chest, then I can come to you to something and get off my chest. And I have established you as an even exchange friendship. What you don't want is, you know, ultimately those people who take and take, right? That's the other kind of side of it is they're like, oh, I feel so bad, and you're like, no, it's cool, I'm great, I'm here for you. And then when you're like, hey, can I take some of that back? And sometimes it's the next day. Sometimes you give someone everything you had, and you just can't handle the next day. So you try to take one of these coins back, and you say, hey, you know, can I bet you a little bit? And they're like, no, and that's when you go, oh, well, we ain't friends. Anyway, that was slightly unrelated, but could help explain some streamers as to why they say what they do and why I act the way I do. ITN quality rants here? Hell yeah. And that's the saddest thing, right, Seb? Is that, you know, it's already said. Like, that's the horrible thing about words, is they just go out and then they're there and the pain is done. And they're such stupid things, you know? Think before you talk, my mom would always tell me, but you don't really picture it. As I remember, I made one of my second grade teacher cry because I was railing this science something she showed us, and I thought it was boring as hell, so I made jokes the entire class. And she called me behind this little, like, fold-out wall she had that gave, you know, zero privacy, of course, but she'd grade papers back there while we were doing tests and stuff, and she told me that I was breaking her heart, that she works hard to pick out these movies and plan these lessons. And, you know, I bawled. I was in second grade, and, you know, an adult had told me that I was hurting them. Hari, yeah, they are pretty static, and the constant change probably does wear people out. I think that's fair. Glad you all enjoyed the drawing. Maybe Kaleo, right? I think in their case, venting is a bit of the process. It's more of a, I think for them, venting is like, oh, I don't want this on my chest, so the thing, it's in transit, right? Like, the bad comment or the thing that upsets them comes flying in, and they go, oh, hot potato, and they move that comment on. Whereas, one of the reasons I'm so analytical, and why I say don't turn off chat, and why maybe I can handle that a little bit, is I pull, if the potato gets past me, I'm like, is it hot? Smell the potato. Okay. That's a rank potato. Okay. No, this guy's wrong. But actually, I don't say anything in chat. I just go, he's wrong, and then toss it in the trash. They take the hot potato, they grab and throw it onto someone else, and then that other person, maybe me, listening on the side, has to go, oh, thanks for the potato, and throw it in the trash for them. Or maybe, you know, you give it a little, do you want it back? And they're like, no, I hate that potato. And you're like, oh, well, one day you might want this potato. And you put it in your sack. The analogies are not going where I planned them to, but you know what I'm saying. The nemesis system of friendship, exactly. I've been playing Shadows of Mordor, yes. Meter guy, yeah, we got meter guys and we got hot potatoes. Brig Myers, yeah, I did. It was a long time ago. That was back, my mom made me take it, I think back in college. And I scored very highly in human resources, which makes sense. Coming from theater to, didn't